Welcome to the Saturday Cup of Joe podcast. This podcast is dedicated to EAS employees of the U.S. Postal Service and members of the National Association of Postal Supervisors. So, pour yourself a cup of coffee and join us for today's episode. And now, here's your host, Robert Wakefield.
Good morning, Branch 32, and good morning to our EAS friends across the country. Welcome to the Saturday Cup of Joe podcast presented by the Nashville Post Office Credit Union. So glad that you are listening today. Thank you so much. I'm Robert Wakefield, president of Branch 32. That's right. Thank you. Thank you so much. All right, enough of the introductions. Let's go ahead and pour that first cup. This April the 2nd, the Nashville Post Office Credit Union is celebrating 100 incredible years. Join us for a spring shredding event from 9 to 11, and then stick around for some delicious food from two fantastic food trucks from 11 to 2. Now, tickets are limited. It's first come, first serve. You can stop by the office and pick those up, so don't wait. Celebrate a century of service with us while supplies last at the Nashville Post Office Credit Union. People helping people since 1925. And for our first cup this morning, we're going to jump right into something big in the postal world, and that is the resignation of Louis DeJoy, the Postmaster General. Now, love him or hate him, his time of leading the U.S. Postal Service has been anything but boring. Never boring when this guy was around. So we're going to look into some of the things that may have happened, why it matters, and what it could mean for the future of the Postal Service. So grab your cup of coffee, your cup of joe, and let's sit back and let's talk some postal drama. So the big announcement came, and here's what happened. Here's what went down. On March the 24th, DeJoy unexpectedly announced that he was stepping down as Postmaster General, effective immediately. No long goodbyes, no farewell tours, nothing of that sort. It was just see you bye, and he was out the door. Now, it was kind of a curveball when you think about it, because DeJoy had previously said that he was going to stick around a bit longer to make sure that the smooth transition was going to take place. And so he let the Postal Board of Governors be searching for my successor. It's kind of like he turned in a 2 weeks notice. Remember when you had a job where you turned in a 2 weeks notice and you worked the 2 weeks and then you went on your way? Well, he turned in a several months notice and then left a week later or 2 weeks later, whatever it was. So it's amazing that this whole transition has taken place. Now, Doug Colino is the Deputy Postmaster General. He will be serving in an acting capacity while the Board of Governors searches for a permanent replacement. And that's no small task that they have on their hands. Given where the Postal Service is right now, that's not going to be easy. So let's look back at DeJoy's tenure. We did this a couple of weeks ago. We looked back at some of the things that he accomplished, and he took the job back in June of 2020. And what a wild ride it's been. You know, while he was in control, while he was the PMG, it coincided with some of the most difficult times of the Postal Service. We had this global pandemic going on. There was a sharp surge in mail-in voting during elections. Remember all that? He was in the center of that controversy. And, of course, the ongoing financial difficulties that we've been having. He jumped right in that in June of 2020. He rolled out a 10-year plan called Delivering for America, and the idea was to stabilize the Postal Service's finances, which, you know, some of the things it included was these new state-of-the-art processing centers and renegotiated contracts, and he's trying to reduce delivery costs. He even played a key role in, getting legislation passed to do away with the 2006 requirement to pre-fund employee retirement benefits, something that's been weighing the agency down forever. So those were some of the accomplishments he did, but let's not forget the controversies. He was slammed for operational changes that led to delayed mail. Oh, man, the guy from Georgia just really let him have it. He was questioned about the Postal Service's ability to handle the election mail. There were accusations of political interference during the 2020 election. And so needless to say, his leadership had its fair share of supporters, and it had its fair share of detractors as well. So the timing of DeJoy's resignation is, it's interesting to say the least. A lot of folks are tying this to the collaboration of Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency. Yes, Doge, that's a real thing. That's not just a meme. Doge. And this partnership, what I think he was after was some creative ways to save money for, and save the Postal Service. So have this Doge people look at it and see if they can come up with something, that's worthwhile. Now, some people saw it as an attempt at privatization. It could have been. I don't know. And from what I've read, it looks like there was some questions that caused tensions with Doge and the Postmaster General. He would not give full data. And I don't know what data was he talking about, but obviously there was some kind of controversy or some kind of tensions. And rumors are suggesting that these tensions may have led for the sudden departure of DeJoy. There's also this question on, DeJoy's reforms and how it's going to be without him being in charge. Are they still going to be going on? Will they stick? Will the next Postmaster General take the Postal Service in a completely different direction? Or will the Delivery for America plan still be taking place? That's a great question. It's a big unknown right now. So what's next for the USPS? Well, the Board of Governors has the tough job ahead of them. They've got to find someone that's going to steer this ship through all kinds of choppy waters. Whoever's going to step into DeJoy's shoes will need to be a good juggler or a great fireman, putting out fires wherever you go. They're going to have to keep the Postal Service financially stable. They're going to have to figure out a way to modernize some of the operations. And probably the biggest thing they're going to have to do, in my opinion, again, all these are just my opinions, he's going to have to rebuild the public trust. That is one thing I think we have lost a little bit in the Postal Service. We don't have the public trust that we once had. So in the meantime, Doug Tolino, he's going to be holding down the fort, and he's going to oversee the day-to-day operations of the Postal Service to make sure that the mail keeps moving. But boy, I tell you what, DeJoy's resignation marks the end of a very controversial chapter for the Postal Service and opens up a whole new set of questions about its future. So what do you think? I would love to get some feedback from you on what you think is the future of the Postal Service without DeJoy. Will the Delivery for America plan continue, or will it not? Let me know what you think. I'd love to get some feedback. I get very little feedback from this podcast, and I'd like to hear from you. So you can send that to SaturdayCupOfJoe@gmail.com. I would love to see what you have to say about that, and let's discuss together. So that's the end of the first cup. And boy, what a first cup that was, wasn't it? I am totally ready for that second cup. Big news from the Nashville Post Office Credit Union. We're now offering money market accounts. That's right. Take your savings to the next level with competitive rates and more flexibility. You can call us today or stop by the branch to learn how you can start growing your money. Your brighter financial future begins here. The Nashville Post Office Credit Union, people helping people since 1925. And for our second cup today, I want to dive into the National Association of Postal Supervisors Legislative Training Seminar. It's also known as LTS. It's coming up soon, and so I thought I would take just a few minutes to discuss what LTS is. So let's just get right to it. What's LTS all about? Well, every year, postal supervisors, managers, postmasters, advocates, we all gather for a crash course on legislative issues that affect the Postal Service. And it's not just about sitting through presentations. There's this interactive part of it. There's this hands-on part of it. And if you're a participant of that, you get trained on the ins and outs of the process. And then we head to Capitol Hill to meet with lawmakers. That's right. You go directly to the folks who shape the future of the Postal Service. Advocacy doesn't get more direct than that. That is for sure. So oftentimes we don't actually, well, in our case in Tennessee, we don't actually get to talk to the representatives that often. We talk to their aides. But that's what we do. We go up there and we talk about Postal Service matters or NAPS matters directly to the people who can shape the future of the Postal Service. Now, this year's LTS could not come at a better time. We've got DeJoy that just left, and we talked about that in the first cup. We've got USPS funding. We've got modernization. There's even talk about privatization. There's a lot on the line. And this seminar is going to help equip those that attend with the tools to advocate for the policies that ensure a very strong Postal Service. It's also a chance to address challenges like staffing, delivery standards, employee benefits. We're going to talk about that. So here's what you need to know. The 2025 LTS is happening April 6th through the 9th at the Crystal Gateway Marriott in Arlington, Virginia. Now that's very, very close to D.C., which makes getting to Capitol Hill super easy. So registration, I think, is still open now. If you want to go and from your branch, you need to talk to your branch president or however you guys do that, and see if you can go up there and be a part of this. I'm going to tell you, every time I go into Capitol Hill or to the offices, I feel very, very American. It's just the coolest experience to go in and talk to the people who actually make laws. And I find it very, very refreshing that we can go up, once a year for the LTS and talk about the different things that affect us as NAPS members and things that affect us as the Postal Service. So it's a very good experience. As a matter of fact, Branch 32 is taking 2 first-timers this year to experience this. We've been taking a first-timer. I think we took one last year. Yeah, we took Geneva last year. And so this year we're taking 2 new ones. And it's a great experience for everyone. I encourage everyone at least once in their career to go and attend the LTS. So just wanted to make mention of that. It's coming up April 6th through the 9th at Alexandria, Virginia. Oh, that song means that time has run out. On today's episode of the Saturday Cup of Joe podcast presented by the Nashville Post Office Credit Union. Thank you so much for listening. Now listen, I ask this every podcast. Share this podcast, like this podcast, subscribe to this podcast. Give me some feedback. I would love to hear from you. What branch are you listening from right now? I haven't heard from a single branch in months. Okay, well, I haven't heard from him in a while. So be sure to let me know where you're listening from. I'd love to hear from you. So thanks so much again for listening. And remember, every great weekend starts with a great cup of Joe. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for tuning in to the Saturday Cup of Joe podcast. Please note that the views and opinions expressed in this podcast are solely those of Robert Wakefield and do not necessarily reflect the views of the National Association of Postal Supervisors. We welcome your questions and comments, so send those to SaturdayCupofJoe@gmail.com.